Very important, and I know a lot of community concern about phasing, but to go back to the educational piece, you know, we talked a little bit about, Arthur, about the need for the school, but as you've been involved with Suzanne, with Gino, with David, in talking about the space, let's talk a little bit about that. How do you actually come up with the space? And, you know, we go back and forth on it, but this is not an easy thing to design, and there's been a lot of back and forth on the educational component.
Absolutely, and this whole project is driven by the educational plan that we developed. And we've tried to make it flexible for the future. We've designed a two-house system, an upper and lower house, but as we move forward, the design, working with the architects and the OPM and that, and you know, and the building committee and you, we've really said, you know, that's what we're looking for. But in the future, you know, we might want to go to a freshman academy, you know, where the freshmen are all housed together, so the transition from the 8th grade to the 9th grade is smooth and what have you. The building is being designed so we can do that. But I think, you know, the educational plan is, we looked at 21st century standards and what, you know, what is a first-rate education in the 21st century and what do we need to provide? And, you know, we're talking about the small schools concept. Yeah. And, you know, all the research is clear that achievement is better and what have you. So we've taken that educational plan that we've developed based on research, based on, 2 years ago, we sent out teams from the high school to 15 high schools that really looked at the state-of-the-art building projects, renovations, and what the education was going on in those buildings. Technology is a huge piece. Yep. And, but this past year, it's been terrific working with the architects, their consultants, the OPM. We've had literally, I don't know how many meetings, you know, at the high school to really get the staff to have the input, and then we've massaged that, and we think we've come up with a design that's going to meet our needs. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, so it's not just throwing it together, and I see you chomping it. No, it's not.
I want to make sure that everyone understands this has been a very inclusionary process.
Oh, it has been.
Yes.
So to his credit and Suzanne's credit, it has been a very inclusionary process. It's been a lot of time spent with staff, with the teachers, with everyone, to make sure that we have heard their input and are trying to do a very flexible building, but not so flexible that it has no purpose. Right. So, but there's been a lot of inclusionary events here.
Well, Arthur got to it before I had a chance to ask him the question about the staff input, and Arthur's been the funnel for the repository for all of the input from our great staff, talking about what they think should go into a new school. And so it's a critical importance, and I know you said it earlier, but the school is not driven by bricks and mortar, but rather the educational needs are driving the building.
And the staff and the kids, and the needs of the kids. Yeah. And the other thing is, and I think it's critical that, you know, we understand that as we move forward, you know, the educational program is, you know, I mean, that's so important, and to make sure that our kids get what they need to be, you know, 21st century citizens.
I know it's been talked about a lot, and before I jump off, I just want to, you mentioned it, but, you know, there were a couple of smaller examples of the deficiencies that we're trying to address. When the building is complete, how many science labs are we going to have?
We're going to have 17.
17 science labs.
Right. Right now we have 2.
That's the point. You have 2 science labs, and how many students do we have at Methuen High School approximately
now? Right now we have almost 1,900 kids.
1,900.
And the building is going to be built for 2,075 students.
Right. So at 1,900 students, you have 2 science labs.
Right.
Is that sustainable?
No.
No.
No. Obviously not.
It's not.
And actually, beyond the 17, we're going to have a biotech lab, which will be housed in our vocational ed technical program. you know, to meet the needs of kids too. So you're really 18.
Yeah, really 18. And, you know, I mean, that's quite, when you see that
Yeah.
type of a stark difference,
Yeah.
you know that the needs currently, we're getting by,
Yep.
but we're not doing the right thing if we left it the way it is by our students.
And Mayor, can I just say one thing too? You know, the staff has had their input, but they also know that, you know, there's very strict guidelines that the MSBA, the Mass School Building Authorities, come out with under the new guidelines, which I think are terrific. But it's been a lot of give and take, you know, with the OPM and the architects and the staff. But at least the staff now knows with all the input. I mean, they're going to get most everything they're looking for, but they also understand things that, you know, square footage and things of that nature. You know, we're very confined, you know, with the guidelines from the state.
Well, and it's a great segue into the question I have for Suzanne, and I know Gino will want to pipe in on this. But, you know, look, when you're doing a project of this size, there are people that, and differences of opinion are fine, but there are people that honestly don't feel that we should do the project. And I think essentially they would point to cost. But let's take that a step further. Is the project that you're the chairman of a Taj Mahal project?
No, absolutely not.
And
absolutely
it's
not.
a fair question because I think the community has asked a question. So let's talk a little bit about that. We have about 2 or 3 minutes left, but I think it's important to address it. I mean, in terms of cost, in terms of MSBA standards, where is this project?
Where, as far as...
In terms of standards, I think that our square footage standards...
I mean, and Arthur mentioned this, MSBA has been doggedly honest regarding what their standards are, so that they would not allow a Taj Mahal.
Right.
Absolutely
They are
not.
allowing a very, very good, efficient building that has good operations associated with it. Their primary purpose, as well as the towns, the city, I'm sorry, has been educational program, not building the Taj Mahal, but building something very, very efficient. I mean, we have that. There have been so many eyes looking at this. You cannot say this is a Taj Mahal. The state would not allow it in any event.
And, the reuse, you know, we're reusing 80%
Of the
more
existing
than
building.
80% of the existing
Yes.
building. So new construction, new meaning new footprint area, you know, is very minimal considering. And I look at all of that because I certainly don't want a Taj Mahal. My children have attended Methuen Public Schools. I love Methuen Public Schools, but I'm also a taxpayer. And like the other taxpayers out there, I want to make sure that my child gets the best education, but I don't want to be paying top dollar for something that doesn't need to be there. So what needs to be there will absolutely be there. The technology, the science labs, the things that we need for our kids to succeed. But, you know, the pool on the 3rd floor is not happening.
Not happening, right.
You know, but...
That's
our
and
job.
it's an important point, and you can understand politically that you hear that. But in the last minute and a half, I said we were going to get to it. We didn't get to it. The swing space. Quickly, Suzanne, you can tell us that the swing space.
Swing space is where we're going to house students. The building committee recently voted that instead of trying to do some modular type of housing of students during the construction and phasing, that we're going to pursue renovating the central school, moving the administrative staff that is in there into temporary quarters for the 3 years that will be under construction, actually more than 3 years while we start, and renovate the building so that it is a reusable asset when we're done with it. The 9th grade students will attend central school. It will have a science area. It will redo the gym area. Everything that they need will be there. So all 9th graders will be going to central school, and then except for some students who will need to use the access that's at the high school.
And we have about 30 seconds on the central school, the educational.
The central school, and I just want to let everybody know that the educational program, and the same thing, when we developed it for the new high school, we also developed an educational plan for the central school, and the 9th graders will receive the same educational program that they're currently receiving. We'll have a biology lab, probably better than the one we currently have, and what have you. So I just want to let everybody know that the kids will have a great program. And I also, one thing that's been out there is the as far as extracurricular activities, the band and what have you. All of those opportunities will be available for the ninth graders, and we've developed a busing system to get the kids up to the high school after school.
And it's a question that has been asked, so we announced it here today, even though the building committee had voted for it. I want to thank all three of you, Arthur, Suzanne, Gino. Thank you for coming by. We will do this periodically to keep you updated on the progress. And our building committee meets every 2 weeks, Suzanne?
Second and fourth Tuesdays.
Second and fourth Tuesdays in the second floor conference room at City Hall. If you would like to come by, those meetings are open to the public. We have a page for the school building committee on our city website, www.cityofmethuen.net. Until the next time, thank you for tuning in.